All right, it's 11 on the East Coast of the US. Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to another Niagara Marketplace Content Spotlight brought to you by Tridium. My name is Omar Ronquillo. I'm the Technical Operations Lead for the Niagara Marketplace, and I'm very excited to be moderating today's session. We've prepared a full agenda for you. I'll kick us off with the marketplace value proposition. For those who are yet not familiar with the marketplace, I'll talk about what is it, what's the value it creates, and how can you benefit out of it. Then I'll hand the webinar over to the marketplace sellers who will showcase a piece of their content. We first got Diverse Controls showcasing Scout, followed by Hawkeye Energy Solutions, who will showcase Niagara Nodes. These two very cool products are available for purchase on www.niagaramarketplace.com. They have very cool features, so stay tuned and check them out online after the Tridium Talk. Something important to call out is that there will not be a Q&A session at the end. Instead, I would encourage everyone to ask questions by using the Q&A function on Zoom as we go throughout the presentation. Last but not least, this Tridium Talk will be recorded and published on Tridium's website in the next couple of days. I hope you enjoyed the Tridium Talk and you learned something useful that can enhance your Niagara experience. All of that being said, let's jump right into it. What is the marketplace? The marketplace is an e-commerce website where you can find hundreds of Niagara solutions that can meet your customer requirements. Whether you are an integrator or a developer, the marketplace creates value for you. If you are an integrator, you know that finding the right Niagara solutions on the market can be a daunting task, but not with the marketplace, because it offers over 100 listings, Niagara solutions that can meet your customer needs. Now, if you're a developer, you know that selling your product on the market can also be difficult, but not with the marketplace, because it empowers you with tools that can help you sell more. They cut the selling process complexity, and they also help you to reach a broader audience. At the end of the day, what the marketplace does is it enables sellers or developers to sell easier, buyers or integrators to buy better, and both to work smarter. So I would encourage everyone to visit niagaramarketplace.com and start seeing the benefits. There are very cool tools for both buyers and sellers. You can create listings, you can create your own store on the marketplace, you can manage your orders on the marketplace, and even communicate with your customers on the marketplace. And for those who manage your licenses in Niagara Licensing, there is a very cool integration between the marketplace and Niagara Licensing. So essentially, after the buyer has placed the order, they can go into a specific section on the marketplace, type in their host ID, and bind the license to that host ID on the marketplace. Again, there are over 100 listings available to you from 17 active sellers from across the US and Europe, and thousands of Niagara users that are already seeing the benefits of being members. And with that, speaking of active sellers, I'd like to introduce our first seller, Diverse Controls, who will showcase Scout.
Thanks very much, Omar. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Like Omar said, welcome. Today we're going to talk about the latest version of ASM Scout, version 2.1. We've made significant updates since the last time we were on one of these webinars to the user interface. We're very excited to share some of those changes and some use cases to see how this product works and how it can benefit you. So just starting with a basic introduction for those who don't know, Scout is an intuitive Niagara search tool. It's used to easily find and modify BACnet points on a network. This can help simplify your daily navigation, process, workflow. It works with all BACnet compatible Niagara systems from 4.10 and up in both Workbench and Web view. It's also available on 4.6 through 4.9 in the web view. So what does Scout do? It's a user-friendly interface made to be able to be used by people of any background or experience level. So the intent was to make something that was simple and intuitive enough to be useful. And we needed to be able to search using terms that people could remember or know off the top of their head. And try to minimize the need to remember syntax that you might require if you were to write a BQL or NQL script. So we've kind of taken the hard stuff off and left it with just the easy stuff. So you'll search by things that you know, like point name, device name, display name, tag, all these different options. You can just type in, you know, with regular words without too much hassle. So the basic functions that you can use, like set, override, auto, those can be used on a large scale with multi-edit. And you can quickly get intuitive color-coded data so that you understand what's happening on your screen in a very simple way. Additionally, you can export that data and help to keep a record of any changes that you're using the system to make, or information if you're just gathering information. In addition, we've added a table view. This is a very handy tool that allows you to sort and filter and see a whole lot more data in one place and really understand what's happening in your building. We've also added favorite searches. These are per user. This make it easy to recreate more complex searches without having to remember exactly what you did to search for last time on those more complicated or harder searches. And then we've also added the ability to subscribe to points. So that'll show you live data and give you a really simple way to view lots of information in real time. So for system integrators, you know, this advanced system functionality works right out of the box. It's very consistent. It does not matter how much time someone spent laying out the JACE and organizing things. Because it works so easily, you can get that data for the building right away. So simplified testing and balancing and point-to-point checkout. There's some really amazing scenarios we're going to get into here in a minute, and we'll go into those in more detail. If you're a facilities operator, this is a helpful way to search for control temps, see devices that are in alarm, and utilize some things that benefit your typical reporting options that will work on the fly. Table view is very helpful because that can include many different related points of data, and you separate them just with a semicolon. So it's a very simple function to be able to use. And then the multi-edit, that's time saving. If you can change dozens of different points at a time, that is just, there's certain scenarios I'll show again in a minute here that are really useful there. It also gives you quick and easy access to navigation throughout the building. It's very organized. You can have displays of groups or devices all in one place. And it follows a role-based user option. So, for example, an administrator could apply an emergency override, but a regular user wouldn't see those options or be able to do that. So let's jump right to it. Scout in action. So let me just get Niagara open here. Okay. Sorry, just one second. All right. So here we have a workbench, and we're just going to start off. Basically, what you would do is start off at the Niagara marketplace. You need your host ID. You can punch that in there and download Scout. There is a free trial available if you'd like to give it a try. And basically, you'll unzip that in Windows, follow the README, and get you. We're going to skip ahead a little bit to where it's already installed, just for the purposes of the demo. And since this is a demo station, everything's not going to match up exactly. Every building's different, so just use your building as consider that your points are going to be different names and all that. So in this scenario, we're going to say you're about to start a point-to-point checkout as a system integrator. Right now, we're going to be using VAVs, but it would work similarly with any kind of terminal units. So we're going to open up Scout, and we're going to do a search for room temp, duct temp, and damper. And then we're going to go ahead and go into the table view. Now from this view, we can add a filter if we want to just include, say, devices that have the word VAV, or if, for example, you could exclude devices that you do not want to show here in the filter screen. So with contains or not contains, and partial search terms work great in here. Okay. And then that helps us narrow down the search. So now we see just the device that we want to see. So let's subscribe to the points in the top left corner in the hamburger menu. That's going to help show us live data so that, again, it's a test station, but that we can see what's happening in the background. And then what we would typically do in a scenario like this is override the room temp. And we do this just to force the temperature into heating. So we would drop the temperature down to have it read a lower room temp. And you guys might do this in different ways. There's a lot of ways to do it. And then what I'm going to do is sort my duct temp from coldest to hottest. Now, as we do that, we can watch every device that's connected correctly. If it's got proper airflow, working dampers, you're going to see all the devices get warm, and the warmer ones will move to the bottom of the list. If there's any stragglers, anything that's not getting warmer, those will jump right to the top because the heat's not working, right? And so then that helps you identify in a simple way, with whether you have tens or hundreds or thousands of devices, which ones are hooked up correctly and properly working, and which ones you might need to spend a little bit of extra attention to, or send a technician to go take a look at and find out what's happening on those particular devices. Then we can go ahead and double check damper position. So if I sort by damper position, now we can see anything that's outside of what your expected range is. So if any dampers are not working correctly, you should be able to identify it right here. So at this point, we can go ahead and release all of our overrides and send a technician to just review the devices that were at the top of that list, because we know those are the ones that need a little extra help. And so for this point-to-point checkout, this same concept would work for room temperature sensors, airflow, CFM, humidity, anything you can think of that you can induce a certain state in the room or the building, and then just follow to see what happens. So then if we go into testing and balancing, we'll use the same example from the VAVs. So now, again, we're searching for room temp, duct temp, damper, and that brings in the damper position. We're already subscribed to these points. So a lot of times the balancer will tell us, hey, we want all the dampers 100% open. So we could go into the damper column, select all the devices, and then we can go ahead and override those to 100%. Now, an entire wing, floor, section, or even the whole building might be already prepped with maximum airflow. And then in this example, we override the temp to a hotter temperature, showing the room's warmer so that it forces it to max cooling. So if we just override the room temp and say 80 degrees or something like that. All right. And so now this could have been 100 rooms. We have them prepped here in, 30 seconds to a minute. So we're ready to go. We can send the balancer through. And right here, we can go ahead and sort by damper position again and see if all the dampers did actually follow the command to go to 100. And so we'll just organize those. It's ending there. They're not quite listening to me, but that's okay. So basically, that's going to give you the idea of where the dampers are at. I think it's because this is fake data. So, but we'll take a look and find out what's going on there. Um, so at this point, then we've been able to set up cooling and prep the building. And I know from doing this from experience, smaller jobs, maybe you're doing this one by one, it might take 10 or 15 minutes per device just to get these ready to go. If you have Niagara, you're doing them one by one, even 5 minutes a device. If you're doing 100 of these, that's going to be very time consuming. So we found this super useful, especially for our larger customers. It saves us hours of time. To just go through and make mass changes like this. Scout's a long-term investment, so it's not only for testing and balancing, but this is something that you can leave your customer. It will last the lifetime of the Jace. It's a perpetual license for that host ID, and that's something that you can use to set your installations apart from your competitors. It also works with any third-party integrations that might be available in Niagara. So if you have like a garage door system or a lighting system that has BACnet, as long as it's communicating over BACnet, you can search for that data, find the devices and points, go into your views or graphics that you have set up, or make changes like opening and closing a door, or just seeing, whatever data you have set up for those devices. So it can be very handy with use your imagination with other types of systems. If you were to purchase directly for your building, for your facility, perhaps, an example, you might have a hotel that has ballrooms that are interconnected. You got a big event coming, you want to drop it by a few degrees. Some places might send a maintenance guy. Other places that have Niagara might change the rooms one by one. Well, the nice part about Scout is that we can go ahead and search for a common name or a tag. Or a group of rooms, separating them with a semicolon. And if it's a more complicated search, like I said before, we have the favorites option. So we can come in here and you can favorite that search. And now you'll be able to see it in this drop down anytime that you want to get to that set of rooms if they're commonly rented out together, for your larger events or something. So that's going to be time saving, because then you can go ahead and set the value for all those rooms to an override and put it on a timer. So we could just come in here and set our control point. And maybe we want it to drop by, to 68 degrees and then last for 4 hours, just as example. Now we hit override and that we're ready to go. That event is all set. Everything's changed and it'll go back to normal as soon as the event's over. So we have a lot of options in here to be able to go ahead and really make changes on a larger scale that are consistent. Because in the future, anytime someone rents that set of rooms, you have them right here in your favorites. So potentially another use case, you might be new to a facility. Documentation, I'm sure it's always perfect and up to date, but just in case it's not, Well, you can go ahead and leave Scout search field empty. So we'll just delete our search here. And that's just going to do a wildcard search. So now we can search every device in the building. And since we're on the table view, we can see how these devices and points are related to each other and where they're all coming from. So that's going to help us learn the naming convention, what devices are communicating over BACnet, which devices are not communicating. Now in here, you can see most of these devices are green. And if I point at the green, then we can see that device is okay, which is an assumption there, pretty good. If the red ones are there, perhaps we want to point at that. That shows that there's an error or a fault. So there's also yellow ones that are stale, but those are a little hard to put on the test bench. So just some examples of the color coding helping you just very easily identify information that's working or not working with just at a glance. So now, if you want to be a little bit more proactive in your building, all of the examples that we gave earlier, these types of things can be done on a regular basis. So if you wanted to do an annual process of checking all of your equipment to make sure it's heating and cooling correctly, that the sensors are all working correctly, you can go ahead and punch that information in. And then once you are finished, you'll be able to export that data. So in the top right here, you can see that there's a download, and name it what you'd like, whether it's like the floor of the system, whatever area that you're working on. And then if you want it to be a text or CSV file, now you can export that data and it will download all the information that's on your screen with all the current values. Okay, and so it kind of gives you an option to supplement reporting or get some quick information in a report format without really setting anything up ahead of time. So you can do this on the fly or, however works the best for you. So let me go back to the presentation here. Just one second. All right. So with all that information about Scout, I just wanted to share that we have had some user feedback, and the feedback that we got is that the device limits are counter to what the product is meant to accomplish. In other words, having limitations on the number of points or devices that you could search for was cumbersome. The other feedback we got is that the unlimited plan was too expensive. So we decided to fix both of those at the same time. And so now Scout is available at the lowest price that we've offered of the $299. And that is our unlimited plan. So there's no longer a device or point limit. It is as many data points as you have connected to your Jace. So that should resolve both of those issues pretty well. And so this also paves the way for future versions of Scout. We're working, for example, on a Scout for server rather than having it on each individual Jace. The larger customers with multiple sites and Jaces, we are working on a tool for you as well. And so we really want this to be such a helpful product that you automatically include a copy in every bid for every customer or every building that you manage, because this is a really useful tool, and we find that we find new things to do with it all the time. So, all right, thanks for joining, and Omar, I'll send it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that amazing demo, TJ. And I think it's worth giving it a try. For those who are interested in trying out Scout, I have good news for you. There is a free trial version available on Niagara Marketplace that you can use. So essentially, you place your free trial and you have 7 days to try it out. And if you like it, you purchase it. If you don't, you can cancel it. But I'm pretty sure that you love it. Up next, we have our second Niagara Marketplace seller, Hawkeye Energy Solutions, who will showcase Niagara nodes.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Omar. Let me share my screen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Okay, here we go. Okay, great. So my name's Aaron Mason. I am the Director of Operations for Hawkeye Energy Solutions, and I'm here today with Alex Parrish, our account manager, and we're here to talk about Niagara Notes. And so just to get right into it, wanted to start with really just sort of why Niagara Notes, and it really kind of started with the first product that we had in the marketplace, which was Station Health. And the whole goal of Station Health was really just to analyze all your stations across the Niagara network and really help you keep track of where your issues were and things that you needed to solve. And so that's been a good success. But one of the things that we found was when we started fixing things, we were having issues keeping track of what issues were resolved and where they were popping up, and we started to see that it was hard to keep track of, and we tried to do that in separate systems, offline systems, but it was kind of cumbersome, and so we kind of said, hey, why can't we just sort of keep track and add notes within our Niagara station of where these issues are popping up and et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a couple of kind of workaround ways to do that with existing things in Niagara, but it was really kind of limited. And so that was really the reason why we created it was, we wanted to store this information and have it right where we were interacting with those pieces of equipment or with that Jace or that station, and so we did that, and so that was really kind of the reason why it was created. And what we found is we expanded it from just looking at things within on Niagara Station specifically to pieces of equipment in buildings and operations, was that all these lost operational insights were causing issues such as lowering productivity and a lot of rework. It was pretty shocking how often the same problem would show up and different sets of people were working on it, but there wasn't a lot of collaboration between those people. And when we started to put these equipment notes and these operational insights directly within the Niagara framework and tagged them to equipment, it became really easy to access sort of the history of how that piece of equipment was managed, or how that piece of equipment was adjusted or maintained in some way, or what was done to it last, or how the sequence of operation changed. And there's a lot of other systems that stuff can be stored in, but putting it right where people are doing the work or where they're interacting with that equipment really helped eliminate a lot of rework. And then shortening the time to resolution, because when you lose this operational knowledge, it can take a lot longer to get things done, and it also promotes silos when you lose this information. You might have 2 or 3 people working on a problem within an automation system where they have the knowledge, so they know what happened to that air handler and they know how they fixed it, but they're in their group, and then maybe another group has to interact with that same equipment, but they're not sharing information as easily, or maybe it happened a long time ago, and so that's buried in an email somewhere. So we started to see all these benefits come out of Niagara Notes, and where it is today is Niagara Notes is a built-in note-taking app that is built right on the Niagara framework. And this is a screenshot, and we'll get into the live demo in a second of how it works and what it does. But it's a way to be able to add operational context and insights into equipment and store it directly within the Niagara framework and visualize it right within your graphics that are running on Niagara. It's a service, so it runs on the services container and just gets dragged and dropped right in there, and can be configured natively right in Niagara, and doesn't require any kind of outside cloud services or connections. So it is on an on-premise solution, and that's where it gets installed. Some features before we get into the demo here real quick. So you can create notes and you can assign notes to sites and buildings and equipment. You can reply to notes. So if somebody creates a note for an issue and you want to follow up on that particular item, or multiple people want to collaborate on that particular issue, they can. You can sort, filter, and search the results of your notes database. As we've seen on some of the larger sites, notes can get into the thousands pretty easily. And so there definitely needs to be a way to do that, and we've built that into the tool. And then from a graphics perspective, there's a lot you can do in terms of hyperlinking the nodes and filtering them so that they can be relativized on equipment views, so that when you go to a view, you're only seeing the notes for that piece of equipment or that building. And then we built it on a responsive HTML design so that it's mobile friendly, as well as looking at it on a lot of other different form factors. So those are some of the features. Creating a note's really easy. We'll go through that in a minute, but this is essentially what it looks like, where you can select a building and equipment. If you've got multiple sites, such as campuses or compounds, that you want to sort of break things up in, you can do that. You can put a subject in and the details, and you just click add note, and that'll be cataloged in your system. The reply to feature, so the ability to add a note in multiple people. So in this particular case, we have air handler 1, and we've got our note, which is our subject right here. And then we've got a couple of different replies, and your user will show up in a different color when you're logged in. And also, all these replies and the names are linked to the Niagara user database, so you're automatically getting that information of what user logged in and who actually created that particular note. Sort, filter, and search. So we've got the ability to search by a lot of different things up here in the notes overview, and we can also filter by your sites, your buildings, and your equipment. And so that's a very easy way to do that. And then, like I said, it can be relativized on graphics. So you can have a notes hyperlink, and you can also pre-filter the notes so that they only show the notes for that particular piece of equipment. So that was a really important feature, so that graphically we can leverage the most out of this. Instead of just having one place you go for all your notes and you have to filter it every time, you can set this up graphically so that it just goes right where that particular piece of equipment is associated with. And then from a responsive design, different form factors, when you're looking at notes, it will respond and display things a little bit differently so that it's compatible with different styles. Configuration editor. After I go through some of the live demo, Alex on our team is gonna take a quick tutorial through how notes is configured. We do have to set up kind of like a hierarchy so that we can assign notes to pieces of equipment and things of that nature. Super easy to set up and intuitive. It's done through web editor, so you don't have to have Workbench to actually configure it once you have the service installed. A lot of features there, but I'll let Alex kind of go through that. To move forward here, let's just go right into the live demo. So the notes, again, is installed in the services container, and this is it right here. There's a couple different views on here. The first one is your standard notes view, which is just going to give you all your notes. So this is going to give you every single note that you have in your system. It's not going to become pre-filtered or anything, and you can hyperlink to this anywhere within your existing graphics. It'll pull up this page, And from here, you can go ahead and start adding notes. And you can use these drop downs to pick from your different campuses, your different buildings, your different equipment, subject, and then you can write in your details. And then that'll go ahead and add a note into your database. We can just go ahead and demonstrate that really quick. So I'm going to go North Campus, and let's say it's going to be a school. Now this is, previously I've used the notes editor to define all this equipment in here. And there's some ways to speed that up, but we can easily pick our piece of equipment. Let's say we're having an issue with, and maybe on this particular one, the actuator doesn't seem to be working. And you can add some details, let's say you visited the site, tried to get it working, placed a new actuator on order. And so we can go ahead and add that note, and then it'll come in, and this is automatically sorted by your most recent notes. They're also color coded. You can see all the VAVs have the same color, and air handlers have similar designation. So that's all done during the setup. So you can it's kind of from an eye chart, you can kind of see what equipment's what. And then from this main notes view, as we talked about, there's some sort and filter options here. So we can sort it by any number of features. So we can sort it by subject. We could sort it by the username of who actually created the note. We could sort it by building. So some easy ways to kind of just get to that area you want to look at. And then from the search field, if we want to search and we're just interested in air handlers, we can choose that. It automatically filters to give us just the air handlers. Maybe we want VAVs, quickly searches, filters to the VAVs. We could also search by subject. So if you have 1,000 notes in here, even filtering it by equipment might not be easy enough to get where you want to go. Let's say I'm only interested in things with belt issues. You could just type in a search function, and every subject that has belt in it will show up. And so that's super useful. And then from the filter settings, this is just an easy way to drill down to a particular campus, or went back too far on that one. Particular campus, a building, you can easily sort by, and then the individual pieces of equipment as well. So that's useful. Some of these are kind of on the demo side, aren't quite set up properly, so I'll have to look into that. There is another view of this whole standard notes view, and that is where we can go to the grid view, and this can be set by default if you're more accustomed to this. So the other one is more of like a HTML card view, but if you want to use the grid view, that's okay as well. And easily you can browse through your notes using that same grid view and respond. So that's another useful feature that is in there as well. The other thing I'd like to mention is if we go to the graphics. So I wanted to go through on the graphics side of things. You might have a standard PX page. I'd like to also note that this does work in some of the more advanced graphics packages, such as Reflow, things of that nature. It's been tested in there, but essentially you can add a hyperlink anywhere you want on a PX page to go to your notes, and it can be set up. That hyperlink can be set up to pre-filter to a particular piece of equipment, and that can be relativized. So you can have a text object saying, hey, anything in this folder is air handler 1, and when they click on it, it pre-filters. So that's what we're seeing here is instead of going to the entire notes service where you're seeing all the notes, we're simply seeing just the ones that are for this particular piece of equipment. And then the same thing is this notes icon view is an icon you can place anywhere that will give you a total count of your notes that you have on your system. And so that can be really useful from the standpoint of when you're browsing a system and you see that there's a problem. So this says that there's an alarm here. So this return fan is in hand, and that's brought up an alarm. So you could start investigating that, and you can make phone calls and go out to the field and try to text people what's going on with this. But a really useful thing is that if you can get your organization to utilize this notes feature, you might look here first before troubleshooting an issue or trying to solve something, because it's possible that somebody's already added a note regarding this return fan VFD. So you might have all this operational context and insights that if people are adding it here to the system, that can really help you accelerate the solution to a problem instead of having to rework and look at it again. And the other thing that we find a lot is that it's not so much that people aren't talking, but there's also amount of time can go by between issues. And you might have had this issue on this return fan 2 years ago, but by that time, everyone kind of forgot that it was even on that air handler, or what the solution was, or how it was handled. And so, just being able to go back in time and just really kind of have that context, it has shown to be super useful in this industry, because there's so many stakeholders within an automation system. Typically, there's the technicians all the way up to the executives of the building that's using the automation system, and sometimes they all have kind of a part, a say, some kind of aspect to the system, and trying to help us retain that knowledge is very useful. So that's kind of how the graphics are kind of broken down. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And that's kind of what I wanted to go through with notes to kind of give everyone an overview. I do want Alex to spend just a few minutes, if possible, to kind of go through the configuration editor, because there's some useful tips in there that I think are really useful. So, Alex, do you want to kind of share your screen and take it away and give us a quick tutorial on that?
Yep, absolutely. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
Should be able to share and then share over me.
You see my screen now?
Not yet. I still see that I'm sharing.
It says that I'm sharing.
Here, let me stop. I'll stop my share.
Okay.
Let me see if that does anything. Oh, there you go.
Yep, now it says everyone can
Okay.
see. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna go over the configuration of it. Everything can actually be done within the web browser. You don't need Niagara Workbench to do any of the configuration of notes, or even adding, as you notice on Aaron's side, he was in the web browser the entire time. Here, you're just going to go into your services container and open up the notes service. And this is kind of like what a blank slate looks like for Niagara Notes. There's obviously no notes here. First thing you're going to do is switch over to, sorry, I've got this Zoom window directly over that. All right, so we're going to switch over to the notes config view. And the first thing that you need to do is build up your asset hierarchy. You're going to go to this label editor here. And you've got these 4 fields to fill in: your site group, site, asset, and asset group. So you kind of notice on Aaron's, there was the Reflow University and all the other assets listed in there. You can think of your site group and site as maybe a collection of your buildings, like your campuses, your collection of buildings within your campus, or even if you want the top tier to be your buildings, you can look at your building as a collection of floors or rooms. So you want to get these filled in first. I'll make this a little bit more fun. Our site groups are going to be regions of planets. And then your asset is going to be just your equipment. The equipment that you saw within the notes that Aaron was going through, you saw the specific equipment tag name. That's what's going to be listed here. And then your asset group are the types of equipment, like air handlers and boilers and such. We'll just fill that in. And then you just go over and add in all those types of equipment. Say an air handler, and you can change the color of this. So as you're searching through your notes, you can kind of see a little bit easier maybe how many notes are associated with air handlers. If you see a buildup of issues going along with those, might want to pay more attention. But that's a nice feature that we have there for just to make it a little bit more user friendly. We'll just choose a blue for that. And then you just go through your list of adding in all your equipment. So we have the asset hierarchy, or at least all the labels created. And then you just go right into here to add in those regions. So we'll go with outer rim. Again, just having a little bit more fun here, but obviously you're gonna put in your buildings or your floors, whatever you want to use or what you need to use. Add in your regions, and then click into your region to add in your sites. Looks like this station that I have is not configured right. I'm gonna switch over to the demo that Aaron was just doing, but at least you got to see kind of a blank slate of how it looks and how you're gonna add things. But we can work off of this one too now. So I'm gonna do the same. I'll just add in the outer rim for the region and click into there and add your site. So in this one, we have it labeled as building, but I'm gonna use the planet. Let's do Hoth. All right, so you've got your site group and your site added in there. And then click into there to add your equipment. We'll just add an air handler to that. And here's your drop down for your equipment type that you put in your label editor. So of course it's an air handler. And then this button here is going to be a link to that graphics page, the equipment graphic page. So we can select that and then choose our source, our file path that's going to get us there. All right. Now that equipment is added, and we want to hit save there. You see this blue save button. Every time you make an edit, that shade will change to blue, to just as a little reminder to make sure you save those changes. So from there, you're going to go in and just add in all your equipment. And we also have a feature here with the import and export where I can download this and it will create a CSV file of all of the equipment for broken down between the site group, site, and then the asset and asset type. And then you can actually just straight from that CSV file, rather than putting in the equipment here on the web browser, the CSV file you can just fill in and then import that CSV file, and all of those sites and assets will automatically populate into here, into the asset hierarchy. So that is a basic overview of the configuration. Again, very, very simple, built right into the web browser, no workbench needed. Anybody can go in and do this. And then to switch back over to the notes view, from there, you'll be able to add your notes. Aaron went over that, but you got the plus sign here and go in and add a note. Everything is just defaulted to the most recent, but you can, of course, change those. And we did link that graphics page to this specific one. So if you were to want to add a node on there, it would automatically make that pop-up link and filter directly to that piece of equipment. So really, really nice there. Makes it a lot more simple to add the node to the desired equipment rather than going into the node service here. Aaron, do you want to conclude now with that?
Yeah, no, that was great, Alex. Thanks for that that overview. Just real quick, wanted to touch on pricing a little bit. So as Omar kind of gave his intro, Niagara Notes is available on the marketplace. It is priced currently on a number of tiers based on there's actually a couple different there's actually a couple different models. The first one is there's a subscription-based model where there is a smaller yearly charge to use Niagara Notes as a service, and then there is another one that is based on number of sites, a number of buildings. So if you've got one big site, then you pay the lowest fee. If you've got a number of sites, then the price kind of goes up, it goes down based on the number of buildings. So you can go to the marketplace and check out that pricing. It's right there, but there are a couple different variants of that. The subscription-based pricing was really born out of we got a lot of requests from end users wanting to tie Niagara Notes to sort of maintenance-based contracts with their customers as sort of an added feature of having an overall service account with them and a service plan set up. So we wanted to create a really cost-effective, affordable price for notes that could be used on a subscription basis. So that's available. And then the other option, like I said, is to buy it, sort of one time. And that's priced based on number of sites that you want to use. And then from there, there's if you want to keep the software current, there's a small SMA charge that is a yearly charge on top of that to just make sure versioning is good to go for the future. But that's essentially how the pricing works. Any questions, feel free to reach out. But yeah, Omar, that's basically what we have to show today.
Thank you very much, Aaron and Alex, for an amazing demo. And as you mentioned it, Niagara Notes is available on the marketplace, and it also offers a free trial for those who want to give it a try. I think it's worth doing it. Go to niagaramarketplace.com and place your order today. We're getting toward the end of the webinar. I don't see any open questions in the Q&A function. So for those of you who are wondering, where can you find more Tridium talks? Tridium has put together a ton of content for you to watch it, not only about the Niagara Marketplace, but there is also content about Niagara Data Service, Niagara Cloud. There's content in different languages. I know there's one in Italian. There's another one in Portuguese. So please go to Tridium.com and check out all the content that is available to you. All right, we've reached the end of the webinar. I'd like to thank our two sellers, Diverse Controls and Hawkeye Energy Solutions, for showcasing their content today. And also I'd like to thank everyone who joined for making the time. I hope you learned something good, something useful that experience. My name is Omar Ronquillo, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next Niagara Marketplace Content Spotlight. I hope you have a great rest of your day.